Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Jason Silverman. Thank you for joining this BlazeMeter webinar, load testing for your Black Friday, which we will talk about large-scale load test ahead of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or any peak traffic event. We will get started in about a minute. I know there's some people who are still arriving. But while we are waiting, I'll actually make a few announcements. And then I'll turn things over to our presenter, Dave Caro. One of which is today's webinar is being recorded, and we will send the copy of the recording via email to all those who registered, hopefully by tomorrow, if not by the end of this week. It's usually within a couple of days. So keep an eye out for that in your email. Secondly, our webinars are always better with questions from the audience, and the way you can ask questions is in the webinar control panel in the questions tab. We will reserve time to answer questions at the end of today's webinar. What I do always say is, firstly, we get a lot of questions, so please try to keep the question on topic of today's webinar as much as possible. Like today's webinar won't be about Selenium or be a deep dive into JMeter, which some of our other webinars are. So just try to keep it on the topic of what the webinar will be. Also, I can't promise we will get to every single question, but we try to get to as many as possible. And we do see the questions afterwards in the webinar system, so we will also try to respond via email if we don't get a chance to address it during the live broadcast. Final announcement for now. Dave, are you ready to go once I finish with the final announcement?
Super close, probably another minute. Okay. I'm good to go.
Sure. So we will have a survey that will pop up at the end of today's webinar. The survey, we do encourage you to fill out. It's a few things I can tell you about it. Firstly, it just takes about 30 seconds to fill out. It really will not take you much time at all. We do appreciate it for a few different reasons. Firstly, it will allow us to get your feedback about how we did today and how we can improve these type of webinars in the future, which we do very much look at the survey. It's one of the first things we do after the webinar, a few minutes afterwards. So please, let us know what you think. Secondly, it will allow you the opportunity to request a follow-up demo, either for yourself or for the members of your team, to address your specific testing needs. I know the webinars that we present are, we're presenting to a wide audience, people around the world and at different levels, but that each people have their own specific testing needs, and we do very much offer the opportunity to give you a demo on BlazeMeter and how we can help you with your load and performance testing. So it will give you, the survey will give you an opportunity to request that as well. So, Dave, are we good?
We're good to go. Let's get into the deck here, and I will get my dashboard back actually, so I can unfreeze my screen. That's interesting, Jason. I don't see my taskbar, which is really crazy. Here it is. All right, now we're good to go. Let's get this party started. You can see my screen okay? See me moving my mouse around a little bit?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Caro, and I'm really glad to be joining you here. I'm going to talk today about load testing for your Black Friday. The reason why I call it your Black Friday is that we're really talking about getting ready for any kind of peak traffic. Obviously, the most well-known one in the U.S. is Black Friday and Cyber Monday, where some businesses do, 30 or even 60% of their annual volume in just a few days. But the idea, it's not exclusive to e-commerce. If you have some kind of a thing that's coming along that's going to lead to a spike in activity and probably like a really high value customer experience, you're in the right place. I'll give you an example that's completely different than e-commerce. In the US, we have what we call open enrollment for healthcare. It takes place typically sort of 1 month near the end of the year, maybe October, November. And suddenly, 20,000 employees may all need to be able to go up there and choose their doctor. That's another example of a kind of a peak period, right? let's jump in. I'm gonna, and just to, in fact, I'll go back for a second. A little background on me. I've been in load testing for quite a while, and an early part of my career, pretty much exclusively focused on outside-in testing late in the game for very, very large e-commerce companies. And I've been kind of shifting to the left, where I've been moving more towards helping developers be ready before they ever get anywhere near shipping their code. And what I want to share today is kind of a mix of I think that no matter whether you're technical or non-technical, whether you're trying to make sure your team's doing the right thing, or whether you're the practitioner that's going to go in and do all the details, what I want to do today is make sure you have both the high-level sort of design principles, where how do I really do great peak traffic preparation, and then some technical tips in the middle, and some nitty-gritty as well. There should be something for everybody. So let's dive right in and get into it. The first thing is it's really never too early to start preparing for peak traffic. And sometimes you get the question, well, so hey, when do e-commerce companies start preparing for the big rush of business that comes in November and December? And some people are pretty surprised to hear that can happen literally starting in February. I was working a couple jobs ago. We did a webinar with Home Depot, and their team gets through the Black Friday, takes about a month off, does a little post-mortem, and then February they actively start their planning and preparation for the next year's Black Friday, right? There is another kind of wave of companies that get started in sort of March and April and May, and then there's companies that sort of like to live dangerously and try to figure things out in September. But realistically, it's never too early to start preparing for peak traffic. There's a corollary, though, which is at the very, very least, leave some time for fixes. One of the big sort of problems with load testing is sometimes people think it's the thing they do at the end just to confirm they're ready. You know, let's just confirm we're ready. We'll do a load test. Well, obviously there's the possibility that you're not going to be ready and you're going to find some problems, you're going to need to fix them. You want to leave time for some iterations. You want to leave some time to be able to look into stuff that could be better. You want to leave time to fix things that are very broken. So you need to start testing. Don't count back in days from when you're going live, and if you're going to do that, then count back at least 90. Give yourself some room to actually make fixes, right? So before we get into kind of the details, let's talk about the cost of not doing it right, or kind of not doing this at all, which is, if you have an opportunity when peak traffic comes along, there's an opportunity on several levels. And if you're unable to meet the demand, then there's clearly going to be a direct loss of revenue or customers on that day when you're hoping to get all this extra business and you aren't able to function. You certainly are losing revenue, right? Direct loss of money right away, right? You're also losing reputation. So when people come to your site and it's slow or broken, it damages your reputation, and that's a longer term thing, right? And that's kind of related to the next item, which is immediate churn. So on the day when you are slow or broken, you are losing people immediately. Your goal is to get and retain customers, and when people come and the site is not working, you lose them, and you might lose them for a short period or for a long period. And fun little fact, it is there have been a couple studies done that actually say that if your site is slow, you're more likely to lose somebody long term than if your site is flat out offline. If your site is not available, people may come back and try again, but if it's really painful to use, they're probably going to consider alternatives. Now, in the terms of churn, one person's misfortune is another person's, boon. The snowball effect is what happens when one site goes down on a busy day. Let's say the busy day, it doesn't have to be shopping for the holidays. It could be ordering flowers for Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. And if one of the flower sites is down on one of those days, the other flower sites are going to see more volume, right? And so the snowball effect is a matter of actually getting, if you're fortunate enough to be up on a day when others are down, you're going to get more business. And that's generally a really good thing, unless that brings you down, right? So one reason why I bring up the snowball effect is that when you're planning for peak traffic, you obviously want to take into account what you think you're going to get in the way of traffic. It's also useful to think about what what would happen if other providers in your space were to fail and their traffic were to come your way? So you might want to have even some extra headroom in there so that you can grow beyond kind of your wildest expectations.